How did Gen G overcome Griffin in the Korean regional? What sort of game plan did Griffin have for the defending world champions? To answer, we must first look at Gen G's series against SK Telecom 2 days before. Gen G began the series using an early game dueling jungler to clear vision. They coordinate with early recalls from mid to create temporary pressure windows where SKT cannot contest Ambition as he face checks the side lanes. This approach gives them good side pressure, and they already picked to win the jungle matchup, but it doesn't do a whole lot for the mid lane, which will become a problem.
There it is, back in the mid lane, level 6 Faker, the flash away, but it's not enough. First blood does go to the Aurelia.
Faker's impact in games 1 and 3 means that Gen G must change their approach. They do so by picking Camille jungle. Why Camille? Well, if you talk to professional players, they'll tell you that Camille has a lot of ganking pressure, especially around mid lane because of the terrain.
Off when you want to use Predator.
Oh, here we go. Contracts, nice gank into the mid lane early on, and Poe Belter's out of there. It's first blood for Golden Guardians.
We said exactly this will happen in Champion Select, Captain Flowers.
However, her clear is not that fast. So, Gen G picks safe side lanes. SKT pass on Braum here and pick a comp with very little CC. But that's another story. In-game, Haru does go mid. He is successful in damaging Faker and swinging the lane matchup for Crown. Core JJ also finds an opportunity to go mid, and together, Gen G's jungle and support have put Crown firmly ahead of Faker. Crown does die a few times later, but his split push is very important for getting the right fights for Gen G. Observe Crown pushing top with a ward along the rotation path. The moment that Faker shows up on this ward, Ruler knows it's time to engage. Crown does not directly participate in this kill, but it is his pressure that allowed Ruler to judge this, allowed Gen G to pick the correct fight, knowing that Faker was too far away to respond. Game 5 is similar in that Gen G make good use of their counterpick for mid-jungle 2 versus 2, whereas SKT less so. Even if Blank hadn't already given up a kill this game, this is still a hard 2 versus 2 to win, mostly because it's two champions with hard CC against two champions with no hard CC. Now, you may be wondering about the difference between Crown and Fly. I suspect that Crown has better communication with both Haru and Ambition, but I see another difference as well in their team fighting. Fly is a playmaker. He wants to engage, he wants to flank the enemy team. To put it another way, he wants to be the guy that goes first. Crown, on the other hand, has a lot of experience playing slower team fights together with Ruler, playing off each other's positioning, patiently looking for opportunities. Now that we have some background, let's begin the series. Griffin draft in Game 1 for strong lanes and an Olaf jungle. The Olaf is interesting because both Haru and Ambition have a tendency to put a lot into their lanes early game. Olaf is a champion that can exploit that. Haru does go bot early this game, getting a kill and blowing all summoners. At 5.5 minutes in, Haru has not taken his first set of Krugs. He is looking at Scuttle Crab near the bot lane he ganked for earlier, but due to Viper teleporting back to lane and the lane matchup, they don't actually have pressure, they cannot actually contest this crab. Instead, Tarzan takes it and gets ahead. At 7 minutes in, we see that Haru still has not taken his first set of Krugs. Tarzan, on the other hand, has taken 2 sets of Krugs, which puts him at level 6, which means that Haru is very dead. Both teams collapse, of course. In the extended skirmish that follows, Griffin win out and are able to use the advantage they've gotten on their solo lanes to snowball and win the game. For Game 2, Griffin select Caitlyn, Morgana, and Nidalee together. These 3 champions can combine to put a lot of turret pressure on the enemy bot lane, putting them almost on a timer. but it's still a kit in execution. They can't get engaged on. Griffin's bot lane starts off well enough, getting both a CS lead and turret damage, but they make some laning mistakes, which causes them to lose pressure and causes Tarzan to call off an invade and lose a lot of time in his jungle clear. Tarzan eventually gets a lead in the jungle matchup, as he should, but it's not enough for him to take deep vision or keep Haru away from his bot lane. Also notice the crown has not been forced by Chovy to teleport back to lane. It was not significant here, but that's a requirement if Griffin want to take bot turret. Game 3, Griffin picks similar, only switching their jungler from Nidalee to Olaf. This works with their winning bot lane, but also now gives them a good 2 vs 2 for the Aurelia. However, Chovy makes a mistake. Tarzan here, coming from the base, he wants to farm his second round of camps, get ahead of Olaf. Crown teleported back to lane. This does mean that Chovy needs to push up and play aggressive if he wants to recall. But this is too soon. Regardless of whether he lands that stun or not, this is too soon, because Tarzan must farm his camps as soon as they come up. He can only help Chovy on those windows between when he does those camps. Now, because Chovy went at a bad time, Haru can come when Tarzan doesn't want to, and then, well, they can dive, get the kill, what have you. So now, Gen.G are going to get an experience in the mid-jungle matchup, when previously, Griffin are supposed to win that. Recall also that Griffin's bot lane has to be isolated 2 versus 2. The junglers can't interfere in that. Now, because of that, well, Haru's going to get ahead. Haru's going to be able to do what he wants. And indeed, Haru goes bot lane. He's a level up in the jungle matchup now. And Griffin's bot lane dies. After losing like that twice, Griffin must adapt. They choose scaling bot lane with a tank jungler. Here, Tarzan chooses to start without a leash. He's now going to put everything into his lanes, completely 180 of what he was doing earlier in the series. He's forced Haru to respond to his power farming, forced Haru to change his style. Indeed, we see that Haru, after killing red buff here, chooses to go to his Krugs for maximum efficiency. Now that Haru has been tricked into power farming, Tarzan proceeds to camp bot. This first gank here only gets damage instead of a kill, but that's fine. Viper is on Kai'Sa. It's a hyper-scaling champion, and given only a little help in laning phase, can do a lot more than Xayah in late-game teamfights. After the second gank gets him a kill, Viper is in a very good position to carry this game, and he does just that. This ends up being the most one-sided out of all the games in the series. For the fifth and final game, Haru, in an attempt to control Tarzan, goes for last pick, Trundle Jungle. He plays it a lot how Ambition would play it, trying to get in Tarzan's face, trying to prevent him from having influence in the game early. It's not very flashy. Tarzan had a better early game anyways. He managed to secure Rift Herald, trade sides, getting 2 turrets to none, and understood the situation better than Haru, who here ends up getting caught and feeding a kill. Tarzan's performance is ultimately futile, though. Remember we talked about Crown, Ruler, their ability to play counter-engaged teamfights. We see a great example of that here, as Griffin are kited through choke points and prevented from following up on their CC. The game doesn't end here, but to be honest, it's more of the same, and Gen.G take the series 3-2. Griffin came into this series trying to spike hard at level 6 in mid and jungle, trying to use Haru and Ambition's tendency to play for their lanes a lot before level 6, maybe fall behind a little bit on tempo, try and use that tendency against them. I think it was a good plan. Unfortunately, execution wasn't quite there. Tarzan did a really good job of adapting, staying unpredictable throughout the series, but ultimately wasn't quite enough. Gen G just had a better team fighting comp in Game 5 and knew how to use it. So, I hope you all enjoyed this video. This isn't a formal scouting report of Gen G by any means, but #Vitwin.